Hey, everybody. I love that intro has one note from Noah's cadenza, then it gets cut off. It's a great note. My name's Taylor Bynum. I'm the director of the Coast Jazz Orchestra and teaching a class for the music department and AAAS entitled Jazz, Black American Music, Black Creative Music and American Culture. And as part of that class and as part of my job with the Coast, we are hosting a series of conversations that we are calling Coastin, with some of the leading figures in the creative music field. And it is my, actually, before I go ahead, let me introduce my co-host, the wonderful Mr. Noah Campbell.
Hello, everyone. I'm Noah Campbell. I'm a 21 government major and AAAS minor, and I'm a member of the Coast as a saxophonist, and I'm also ATA for Taylor's Jazz History class.
And we are delighted to have with us a guest today who is, I have to say on a personal level, has been one of my friends that has helped me get through this last year on all sorts of levels, but also a musician I hugely admire, someone who has been a trailblazer on the cello, as an organizer, as a scholar, a composer, the amazing Tomeka Reid. Tomeka, so good to have you with us.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me to be at on the Hop at Home. I like that title. It's great.
So you are our third guest, as I mentioned. We've had Warren Smith here and we had William Parker here. But I'm very excited because you're sort of the first representative of our guests on this. So that's one of the things I wanted to start talking to you about. Your path to this music I think is quite unique, but even unique in this moment, because I think in a historical and cultural moment where the world is littered with, under high school and undergraduate jazz education programs, you really didn't come up playing, improvised music as a practice where that is commonly seen in this music as the cello. Of course, there have been other fantastic cello players, many of whom you have researched and Murray. But tell us about your path to finding your way into being an improvising musician.
Yeah, so I, as most cellists and probably violins, violists, we start out with traditional. I think I always desired to do something different though, outside of just playing classical music. I loved hearing strings in pop music growing up. Hearing Soul to Soul and learning that the Reggae Philharmonic, which I'm not sure if they were like really a group, but when I was like, who are these string players? They were from the Reggae Philharmonic, and just thinking like, man, I want to play other styles. And I think that was kind of like in my brain just from when I was young. And I just also loved playing with the nature of just playing in an orchestra or playing in an ensemble. So I think when I got the opportunity to improvise, or I guess I had a mentor, his name is Sais Kamaluddin, actually, who was the first one that really encouraged me to actually try to play in other ensembles. Like there'd be flyers up at my undergrad that was like, oh, I think rock bands were really asking for a lot of cello players at that time in the late 90s, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. But so he would give me these, and he would play flute, and I would just read these walking bass lines, and because I think he also gave me some charts, but I didn't really understand all the symbols and things like that, how to read like what exactly does a C7 plus 5 mean, still working on that, but you know what I mean? Like I didn't know what all these symbols meant. So he would give me these bass lines that, and we would do these little gigs at coffee shops and things like that. And then a real pivotal moment for me was in the summer of 1998. I was really obsessed with moving to Chicago because I had visited a friend who went to Northwestern, after high school. And so once that summer, I was like, I want to just spend the summer in Chicago. And I got this job at like a movie art house. And there they had this flyer for a classical symphony. And I was like, oh, I'll join this. And in that orchestra is where I met one of my really long collaborators and also best friends, Nicole Mitchell. And in that orchestra, there was about 5 Black people. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not the only one. I'm moving to Chicago. And I literally, moved on the Greyhound in 2000 to Chicago to go to grad school. Just because I just never played with so many other Black musicians, and that was only 5. But when I got to Chicago, I reconnected with Nikki, and started playing in her ensemble, Black Earth Ensemble. And she had different, iterations of this group. It might be a trio, it might be a quintet, it might be a septet. Then she also had Black Earth Strings that I was a participant in. So I would say, that's kind of how I got more entrenched into improvisation. Is definitely, starting out at University of Maryland with my mentor, and then once I got to Chicago, meeting, reconnecting with Nikki and playing in those projects, and then meeting other musicians that were in, that really, I still look back on it and I feel like 2000 was like the perfect time for me to move to Chicago. I didn't realize how fertile the environment was, and just all the things that were happening, and like the Velvet Lounge, and like, just all these musicians that I was coming into contact with. I also, started working. I was a door girl, super shy door girl for this. And so I was here, and I remember walking in one day and Mal Waldron was playing the piano, and I'm like, what is happening? And, just, seeing jazz vocalist Dee Alexander sing every Wednesday. And then it was just an amazing place too, because they would have, political events. They would have like queer events. It was just like a mixture of all, like, world music events. Seeing Rokia Traore there, seeing Henry Threadgill there, the Eight Bold Souls. Local artists, national artists, global artists performed there. So I was just getting kind of like inundated with playing in her bands and working at this venue. And then I had my like classical master's program that I was in, that I was just like, I want the technique, but this isn't really my vibe. Just the, I don't know, uptightness of the, and just the, I don't know. I think I just came to a point where it's like, if I'm going to, spend all this time trying to learn someone else's music, why don't I learn, my own voice? And, I think that was also the ethos of ACM that I became a part of. And sorry if I'm jumping all these things, but hopefully that's, kind of answering your question of how, that was kind of my path. Yeah, those early days were very, I would say, traumatic even. I just remember, I came to studying cello professionally kind of late, for someone that wants to go to school and be an orchestral musician or whatever. So I was like, oh my God, I just spent 5 years like trying to not make those sounds, and you want me to do that on stage? Like, and just the concept too of, you know, my idea of doing a concert was it was recital, and you prepare for so many months before you even dare bring it before the stage. So it was like this whole notion of, oh, hey, there's a gig tomorrow. You want to come in? You don't know the music, you know, like just this kind of ah, thinking on your feet. It was just a different kind of sensibility, or just a different kind of preparation of this and forgivingness. And yeah, I think it definitely opened me up as an individual. It took a while though, because again, you're so used to like my idea of was, and I guess I'm hesitating in my words because it's not like you don't want to present something that's polished. I don't mean to say that, but the idea of you are presenting something that is a work in progress. After a while, I guess you figure out what you're doing and then you can go and practice. But for me, again, as a new improviser, I was like, where do I begin to practice these ideas, or how do um, I don't know. Yeah, you're just coming from this world of like, I have to spend 3 months before I can do this. And now I'm just doing gigs like weekly, and I don't know how things are going to go, but learning on the stage, learning the process. And because again, I don't want me to say things aren't polished, but it's like at the same time, some people don't want to come to hear you practice. They want to hear something. So then there's that pressure of like, well, what am I going to say, and how do I say it, and just how do I create this language? And as you mentioned, Abdul Wadud and Deirdre Murray, that's when I started, trying to listen to other cellists to figure out like, well, how are they approaching the instrument, or what are they doing? And a lot of people are like, oh, well, you don't, I'm not hearing that jazz language or whatever, and just trying to like, well, what does that even mean? And like, so then listening to these other instruments and then trying to transcribe and like bring that to my instrument. And then through that process, you're kind of developing your own a language or a method for your instrument, because it's like, maybe you wouldn't normally think to play in that way because you're not a trombone, or you're not a trumpet, or you're not a saxophone. So that's kind of, you're bringing those elements, and so then you're kind of creating your own language through that. So yeah, I think it definitely opened up my ears, my personality, my musicality. And I actually feel like when I go back to classical music, it's a lot more fun, and I don't feel as tense or tied up. Like, sometimes I'll read string I play the wrong note. It's like, it's just one note, I mean, it's important. I don't mean to say that you shouldn't strive for the highest level of playing, but I don't know. I feel like because I've taken these risks, that to me, improvising is so much, can be scarier to me. I don't know. It can be whatever. I mean, it can be very liberating, but because I've done these other risks, when I come back to the classical, it makes it a lot, I don't know, easier or just funner, or I can enjoy it a little bit in a more relaxed way than I think prior to the improvisation. It's funny because I used to compose a lot when I was younger. I just didn't know about proper notation. And then I think when I took some theory classes in high school, it was just like, write a prelude, or write, I just felt like everything was kind of geared toward, again, Western classical music, which isn't bad, but I just felt like, and I felt like if I wasn't doing that, then I wasn't a composer. So I didn't really, I didn't pick up composing again, I guess, until, in as you say, the aughts. And it was through the encouragement of, I feel I should mention, I feel very fortunate to have had female mentors in this music. I feel like a lot of folks and women, we often don't have female mentorship and mostly female mentorship. So it's like I worked with Nicole Mitchell, and then I worked with DL. Like, I would say definitely D. Alexander. I played in her Evolution Ensemble. She was very much like, you can bring music to that particular group. Most of the Black Earth stuff, that was all. But with Dee's, she definitely was like, you can bring composition to this group. We can play it, and so that, and then Nikki encouraged that kind of pushed me along to compose more. I think I still, even though I was really enjoying the improv, I think I still was, at that time, I think I still had some anxiety about like totally going into improvised or jazz world as a cellist, because I felt like, oh, then maybe I won't get called to do other gigs. I remember having that anxiety for a while. But then I just felt like I just was getting asked to do more and more of that. And I was just enjoying that more. I'm like, why am I stressing out? Because I think, for a while I was playing with like Chicago Sinfonietta, which was like, at the time was, Chicago, I mean, the US's most diverse orchestra. But it was just so stressing. And I was just like, and I was also playing in a rock band, and the tours were just so rough. And I was just like, you know what? I like this improv jazz world. I like the stories that you get from the other musicians. And I just like I don't know, it felt more historic, like there was a historical piece to it that I really enjoyed about carrying on a legacy or being a part of this lineage that really was appealing to me. So I started doing that, and then, they were just encouraging me to compose. And so I just started doing that little by little, mostly, I would come up with compositions that would, maybe deal with some form that I was having trouble with, or I wanted to improve on, or a time signature. Like, I was like, oh, I want to play better in 7, so let me write some pieces in 7. I was just kind of coming up with compositions like that. And then I think for like my first record, it was like I picked the best, or the pieces that I liked out of those pieces for that. But that's kind of how I got started with that.
One thing that's been a consistent in your career, from my perspective, has been sort of celebrating and spotlighting those under-recognized stories. Whether it's, you just recently got a grant from Creative Capital to explore the history of women in the AACM. You conducted the first interview with Abdul Wadud, who is should be said, is one of the revolutionary cello players of the 70s and
He's
80s.
like the Pablo Casals of cello improvisation to me.
That sums it up. Yeah, exactly. And he disappeared so entirely from the scene. Some of his oldest friends thought he was deceased, and Tomeka managed to find him and publish the first interview with him, I think, in decades. And the work you do with the Artifacts Trio, which is a group with Nicole Mitchell and Mike Reid that performs the music of AACM composers that's rarely been performed by folks other than those composers. So I just feel consistently throughout your career, you fought for the underdog, to put it, simply. What do you think attracted you to that practice or that pursuit?
I guess I don't even think of it as the underdogs per se. I think it's just like, I think maybe it's just how I was raised, is just honoring my elders, or honoring, I think, I don't know. It's like, I've done interviews where people are like, oh, you're the first jazz. It's like, I do play jazz cello, but I'm not the first. It's like, let's not, I guess maybe it's just being a person of color. I'm just sensitive to like the erasure of stories, or people who gets to tell the story, and who gets to omit things and things like that. I think I'm just really sensitive to that, because I feel like we all have stories. And, as we've talked about Taylor, it's like those other stories are really the history. I mean, you're seeing, you'll get, what is often showed to us is like this shiny little piece of the pie, but there's like all this stuff that's also happening. And yeah, I just think it's important to give recognition to those voices, and just so that everyone feels that we matter. It just matters, and it's important, and that's how we got from A to B. It's not like it just happened that we're just at this point, but it's like all this other stuff, all these other people, all these other folks, all these other things have happened, and there is space and time to talk about it. And we, maybe in our capitalistic way, it's like we have to just focus on one person, and it's like, no, forget that. No, there's like all these other stories that are valid and important, and will speak to somebody, but it's important that we get to see voices. I don't know. I just think it's important. I just feel like it's important to do, and maybe that's part of my practice of just like, maybe it's a very African thing of honoring your ancestors. I'm not sure. I haven't really thought about it so deeply, but I do feel like it's important to know our history, and just to share those stories, because it's like, otherwise people just think that something just started, they'll make some ridiculous comments about like, oh my God, this is so new. And it's like, no, this is a fresh take on it. This is this person's interpretation of it, and this is the real stuff that's been going on all the time, that is not getting the spotlight, and it's like, and then it's like, yeah, I want to spotlight this thing if I can, while the person's still with us. There's so many times it's like, you can't speak to them anymore. I think maybe too, it happened more when Billy Bang passed. I really wanted to play with Billy Bang. Was this really great violinist, and I got to meet him actually when I was at the Hot House. He was one of the people that came through, and I remember thinking like, man, when I get lose my stage fright and get less shy with music, I would love to just reach out to him. And I was just very just shy about doing that. And then he passed. And I think when that happened, I'm not going to be shy like that anymore. It's like, I want to get to know these people. I want to get to know these people. And I think it we happened in my own family. My mom's mom passed. I was like, I didn't grow up, we don't have a very close-knit family. I didn't really get to know her that well. But I was like, what, when she passed, I was like, I got to get to know my elders. I don't know. I think it probably, I think that just this idea of like, I think it's important to know where you come from, because it can inform where you're going. You don't have to live in it, but it's just important to know these things. And I think it's important to share these voices, because they maybe for some reason they couldn't speak or something like that. So.
Well, I feel whether intentionally or not, you created such a beautiful summation of what you talked about in your improv, like as you're trying to learn how to improvise, is that you got to forgive yourself, you got to do your best, you got to keep working at it. And I think I cannot think of a better way to close out and think about how this music and this and improvisational practice and this tradition can inform our lives outside of this music. And thinking about ways, to let's all do our best, let's all keep doing the work, and let's all forgive ourselves when it doesn't, and when it doesn't come out the way we expected, take that path and learn from it. I love that.
Because you never know what it's gonna, I just think about all the opportunities and all the people and all the places I've gotten to go. It wasn't, I got 2 degrees in classical cello. This wasn't the path that I was thinking, but because I was open and, tried some things, I got to be a cello player in the art ensemble of Chicago. Like, what? It wasn't the end goal in my mind, So it's like, I think, like I said earlier, it's like, it's important to be open. You never know where any of this is going to lead you, and to be patient, because everybody has a different, you might see someone who seems like they're running faster, and it's like, maybe they are right now, but maybe we all do things at different times, and to be okay with that too.
Tomeka, that is beautiful. Thank you so much for coming to be with us and for visiting us. It is always such a pleasure to spend time with you, inside or outside of class, on or off the stage. So thank you, Noah. Thank you for being our co-host of these events. Thanks to everyone in the class, and we'll see you next time. So thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. And congrats to you, Noah, and all the graduating folks. It's a challenging time right now, but congratulations.
Keep doing your best, hang in there, be patient, take all of those lessons. There's some good lessons today to take with you as you graduate. All right, take care, everybody.
Bye.